How to date 9s and 10s. This is a question we commonly get. So we're going to be reacting to a video by Benjamin Soda, also known as Base Zeus. I'm going to tell you whether I agree or disagree with what he has to say. Let's get into it.
This is a message from my client, Brandon. He was going on 2 to 3 dates a week, but the girls were all average. 2 months ago, that all changed, and now he easily gets dates with women most guys are afraid to even look at, simply by applying these 7 rules every time he approaches 9s and 10s. And the first rule is to stop the habit that instantly makes hot girls friend zone you. Stop calling them 9s and 10s. When you do this, you're subconsciously putting these women who are complete strangers
Hey, excuse me, I thought you were 9. I want to come up and say hi to you.
on a pedestal. Yes, she's gorgeous, but her looks are only a small piece of what makes up a good partner in a relationship. If you have the mindset and the belief that women are better than you simply because they're attractive, then you're destroying your chances with them. You treat her like a celebrity, she's going to treat you like a fan. Which brings me to my next point.
He makes a really good point here, right? Stop putting the 9s and 10s on a pedestal. This is what happens. Like, guys will say like, oh, you know, I've gotten really good at like 6s and 7s, maybe 8s, but with a 9 or 10, it's just so much harder. Well, a big part of the reason why it's harder is because you put them on such a pedestal, right? So you take a lot less social risks when you're talking to them. You're afraid to escalate. You play like really safe, right? And as a result of that, she loses interest. So if you treat the 9 like you would treat a 6, you're going to get much better results.
Just be normal. A lot of guys think that they have to be overly witty, charismatic, and have great game in order to appeal to the girl. Totally wrong. When you first approach a girl, you're a stranger. By simply being normal, she's more likely to let her guard down and hear what you have to say before labeling you as a potential creep. When you go in trying to be Mr. Personality, this could actually scare her away. The truth is that interacting with a total stranger can sometimes be a little awkward, maybe even a little bit uncomfortable. So it's better to have an interaction be a little bit awkward rather than overcompensate by trying to be super gamey and witty and have the best game.
So he's correct about that. Being overly gamey is like a curse. When people do that, it's just massive cringe. You're better off just being a little bit boring than being overly gamey. That is true. But ideally, right, there's a nice middle ground here. So ideally, when you go up to an attractive girl, or any girl, really, a girl who's a 6 or a girl who's a 10, when you do that, you want to be interesting. You want to be witty, right? You do want to somewhat stand out, because the whole idea of going up to a girl that you don't know, cold approaching, is not really a normal concept. It's not something that, you know, the normal person does, right? Even though it's something that everyone wants to do, which is why when you approach a girl, everyone's watching you. All the guys are watching you. So I think that, yeah, it's good if you can stand out by being witty, but if your choice is being overly gamey or just being normal and a little bit boring, go with the latter.
Spawn pickup line, because I promise you, doing that is actually going to be much weirder. In fact, with first interactions, being boring can actually be better sometimes because you're not causing the girl's guard to go up, and it allows her to feel more comfortable because there's nothing out of the ordinary, whether it's positive or negative. The other thing to consider is that most guys feel the need to be super gamey and act like a circus clown because they deep down don't feel good enough, and they think they have to put on a whole performance in order to win the girl over. Girls can smell this desperation from a mile away, and it's going to repel them, which is why, as corny as it sounds, being yourself is actually the best dating advice you can get. But there's a lot of caveats.
Well, being the best possible version of yourself, right? Because if you're someone who is naturally not attracted to women, just being yourself isn't going to do the trick. You have to improve and level up and overcome those negative qualities. Like, for example, let's say you're very timid. You have to become a lot more assertive, right? So you can start being yourself. But let's see.
And the biggest one being your true self has to be someone that's valuable. And an even bigger caveat is that you have to know how to effectively communicate your true authentic self in a way that's going to get her interested. Now, if you're a guy who's looking to increase the quality of women that you're meeting and learn how to connect with them on dating apps, Instagram, and even in person, then click the first link in the description and apply to work with me inside of my private coaching program. Me and my team will literally build your dating app profiles from scratch, give you access to our copy-paste text messages that will get you on dates with these types of girls, and show you how to meet them in person in your day-to-day life without anxiety or nerves. So if you've been struggling for a while and you'd like to start dating these 9s and 10s, click the...
I don't know if you guys remember, but this guy actually used to never show his face. He had just a whole animation. That's when he was known as Base Zeus. But he's very successfully made a transition to, I guess, showing his face, which obviously shouldn't be that big of a deal anyway.
First link in the description, and me and my team will get in touch with you. Which brings me to my next point, which is actually the uncomfortable truth that no one wants to admit. You have to follow up. Most guys text a girl and get left unseen or ignored once, and they never text the girl again. Listen here, if a girl doesn't reply to your text once, that does not mean it's over, not even close, especially with the most attractive girls. Hot girls are constantly bombarded with texts and notifications from every app on their phone, but most guys are too afraid and insecure to follow up and be a little bit persistent to get what they want. Girls respect persistence, and from a practical perspective, following up gives you more opportunities for her to say yes.
He's making great points so far. I agree with everything he said, and I find that with the really hot girls, especially on dating apps, you have to be more persistent, right? I think that just if we look at averages, of course, I've had situations where an 8 and 9, you know, I didn't really have to follow that much and I was able to get the date, right? But on average, from what I've seen and from all the lay reports I've read of guys in my mastermind group, when you get to like the really hot girls, you have to be more persistent, right? They're a little bit more, you know, let's just say flaky, or sometimes they got a lot of stuff going on. They're more scattered. So you have to be a lot more persistent. If you're not willing to be persistent, at least when it comes to dating apps and Instagram, you will miss out on the vast majority of the really hot girls.
A girl has so many options, she typically won't change her schedule or go out of her way to go on a date with you at first, even if you are a high-value guy. However, if you ask for a date, she says that she can't that day, but she reschedules and you follow up and ask for a date again 1 or 2 more times. By that point, you're more likely to get it because you're increasing the odds that a date will fit into her schedule and be convenient for her to go on. And before you call me
one easy way to kind of minimize the whole thing, like, oh, I'm busy that day, is just say, what's your schedule like, right? So follow what I call the optimal closing sequence, which is first soft close. It's like, we should get together sometime soon. The girl's like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. Then figure out her schedule. Cool, what's your schedule like? And after that, you can hard close. Okay, cool. She says she's free on Tuesday night. How does Tuesday at 8 p.m. sound?
Simp and say that it's ridiculous to follow up with a girl. Here's the beauty of it. It only takes 5 seconds to send another message as a follow-up, so it literally costs you nothing. Not to mention, until you're a few dates in with a girl, you're gonna be following up with multiple girls at once, so you're bound to get a few to respond back and agree on the date. And because more often than not, until you go on that first date, you're a stranger, you're always going to encounter the most resistance up until that first date, which is why most of the heavy lifting that goes into dating really comes down to, number 1, getting her on the date. That's usually 80% of the work. And number 2, performing well on that date in order to get second.
He is correct, right? The more you go out with a girl, the easier and easier it gets. And then eventually you don't have to be persistent, because if you're actually doing everything well and you're good in bed and you're a cool, awesome guy, she's going to start chasing you.
Get 3rd and 4th dates, which is why we want to follow up and pursue multiple options until we find someone that we're compatible with. The funny thing is that the reason most guys are afraid to follow up is because it hurts their ego. And deep down, they're not doing the next point, which is play to win. It's far better to go for it and make your intentions clear and to lose and get rejected rather than losing slowly over time. Actually give yourself the opportunity. Go for that girl when you see her. Don't get stuck admiring her from afar and being too nervous to approach. Most guys are too nervous to approach a truly beautiful girl that they just don't. So by approaching or making the move or sending that second follow-up text, you're already...
Again, he's 100% correct. This goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is why guys struggle with the hotter girls. A big part of that is when it comes to, like, let's say a 6 or 7, they're playing to win. They're like, yeah, my goal is to, like, fuck this girl. When it comes to 9 and 10, they're like, oh my God, like, they're in a place of scarcity mentally. And because those girls are more rare, they're like, I just want to not fuck this up. I want to not fuck it up. When you're playing not to lose, you most likely are going to lose. You want to always play to win rather than playing not to lose. It may seem like a subtle difference, but it's absolutely not when it comes to mindset.
Putting yourself ahead of the curve and opening up the opportunity for it to work. The real truth is that the average girl gets approached more because she's less scary and intimidating than the drop-dead gorgeous girl. Not to mention, average and below average guys feel like they have more of a chance, so they shoot their shot more regularly. People don't typically...
See, I don't know if average girls get approached more than hot girls. I don't think hot girls get approached significantly more. So it's not like the hotter you are, like, you know, you get more approach. It's like a straight correlation there. But I don't know if they get approached less. I think it also depends on the type of hot girl. So if you take like a hot girl, like the type of girls that I'm attracted to, which are like big booty Latinas. So you have a Latina with a fat ass and huge tits and just like very beautiful olive skin, right? She's probably gonna give it approach more than what you consider like the model type of girl that, you know, some guys are into, where they look like, you know, these tall blonde models. So yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I guess it's a side point.
Aim high or go after their highest ambition. The same is true in your dating life. So by going for the top tier women, you're automatically more likely to get them. Which brings me to the most important point in this video. Treat her like a human being. The most attractive girls are used to men objectifying them and only seeing or using them for their looks. The harsh truth is that lots of guys see a hot girl as a trophy or a prize to be won and aren't actually interested in who she is as a person. This feels dehumanizing to the girl, which is why I said don't call them 9s and 10s. So if you give off this energy, you won't be able to keep...
And don't overly compliment their beauty either, right? Don't focus like, oh my God, your eyes, oh my God, you're so perfect, right? Yeah, give her shit. Don't be afraid to tease her, fuck with her, right? That's really what's attractive to hot girls, because guys are really afraid to tease them. Guys are really afraid to give them some shit, right? So if you can do that, you're automatically going to stand out, right? Like, don't treat her like her shit don't stink.
Per attracted and interested long term. Not to mention, it's impractical to only choose a girl based on her looks, because her personality and how well you guys click emotionally is what makes up the substance of a relationship. This is why some extremely attractive women also end up pursuing large and ambitious goals in other areas of their life. This way people can see them and respect them for more than just their looks. Don't be like the 99% of guys who are mesmerized with her looks alone. Use your brain. Yes, her looks are gorgeous, but looks aren't what makes a strong and healthy relationship. It's the emotional connection and who she is as a person that will make you want to stay with her. And that actually brings me...
Another way of framing it is looks is largely, not entirely, but largely genetics, right? She just won the genetic lottery. It's like someone like, being born, someone who's 6'5", right? Like, would you admire them from that? Not really, unless you're a black pill, in which case you'd probably be jerking off to them, right? Like, that wouldn't really play a role because, again, something that was given to them. Versus the things that I personally admire people are things that I had to earn, right? So that's why you can appreciate beauty, but you don't want to admire a beautiful girl.
To the biggest mindset shift that is going to determine whether or not you're able to date 9s and 10s. Believe you are worthy. Most guys will see the drop-dead gorgeous girl when they go out and will freak out from nervousness and go approach the average girl instead. It's safer, feels more doable, no pun intended. In fact, I was recently out at a nightclub and I went and approached what I thought was the most attractive girl in there. And what she told me was, I'm actually surprised you approached me. You're the only guy who came and talked to me all night. And I was really surprised considering she was super attractive. And she said, honestly, I think I'm too intimidating and a lot of guys don't even bother talking to me. I was honestly getting kind of bored because guys are talking to all my friends, but not me. And the reason for this comes down to an issue.
That's very interesting. We live in different places. I think it's public knowledge, but he lives in closer to New York, New Jersey, right? So it might be a bit different over there. But in Miami, it is a bit different. The hot girls do get approached. But maybe he is right. In other parts of the world or in other parts of the country, maybe hot girls do get approached a bit less. I don't know.
Self-esteem. Most guys see an insanely hot girl and they think to themselves, oh fuck, there's no way I could ever get her, or she's too hot, and then your mind and your body freezes. The root cause comes from a belief that you are not good enough. In fact, this is the root of most problems you encounter in your dating life. It's self-sabotage more than anything. How are you supposed to get the cream of the crop if you're not even giving yourself the opportunity, if you don't believe yourself worthy of that opportunity? The thing you need to realize is that you are the most important person that you should worry about impressing. That no fucks given attitude, that willingness to own what you got and who you are is attractive to everyone because this is how most people wish they could be. When you manage—
True. If you look at the boyfriends of like really hot girls, they're typically like average-ish looking guys who just don't give a fuck. Like, just don't give a shit. Like, they're not afraid to say whatever or go for whatever, and they typically have high self-esteem. Sometimes too high. Sometimes they have like a big ego, but they think like really highly of themselves.
To embody this carefree, unapologetic acceptance of yourself, it wins the praise from the people around you. You embody this sort of carefree charisma that creates a magnetic aura that people love to be around. And once you're able to embody this belief that you are worthy of these types of women, it's important for you to do the next thing, which is have standards that are unrelated to looks. Guys are a funny breed. The level of anxiety and nervousness they feel when they talk to a girl is directly proportionate to the girl's attractiveness. Hotter the girl, the more nervous you get. Let me tell you something that will ease your nerves. In my experience interacting with tons of women, I can confidently say that looks are not directly correlated with how cool a girl is and how much I like her personality. In fact, if a girl is a 10 out of—
that's 100% true. There's no correlation there.
10, but her personality is unbearable, I won't even waste my time. A guy sees a hot girl and immediately—
he'll probably sleep with her like I would, but then he wouldn't date her. I think that's what he means.
He decides he wants to be with her. Girls aren't the same way, so when guys act super desperate like this, they find it weird and creepy because it's unrelatable. Think about it. How do you really know you want to be with someone you haven't even had a conversation with her? She could be the most annoying person on earth. She could breathe really loudly. She could chew with her mouth open. She could be dumb as rocks. You have no idea who she is because you haven't even spoken to her yet. When I was much younger and I was still struggling with this, I made a deal with myself that I wasn't allowed to want to be with a girl until I actually have a conversation with her and see if we click beyond just physical attraction. This helps a ton because it flips the script in the interaction, and suddenly you're the one screening her, deciding whether or not she's—
He's kind of touching on a little bit of a separate issue, which is that if a girl's really good looking, a guy just becomes mesmerized. He's willing to overlook all the red flags, right? Like, if he's like, for example, he's a 6 or 7 and she has some red flags, he's going to be more likely to be like, oh, well, maybe I can fuck with this girl, but I don't want to date her. Versus it's like a 9 or 10. It just like the beauty just overlooks everything. It's like, yeah, you know, she does this and this, and she's a serial cheater, and she chain smokes, and occasionally she gets drunk and like steals my shit, but she's got really, really nice tits and she's a 10, you know, type of thing.
She's worth the time and effort instead of for her waiting for you to try and impress her and put on an entire show. Unless I think a girl's attractive and cool, I won't do it. Because the truth is, life is too short for you to spend time on girls you don't actually click with and like. Simply having standards that are unrelated to looks will ease a lot of your nerves because it'll allow you to look at women with a lot more humility and see them for who they truly are.
All right, I think we basically just get the gist of it. But yeah, I agree with every single thing he said. There's some small caveats that I added, but he's correct. And I think the one thing that's a little bit missing in this analysis is where to meet 9s and 10s. Now, there are 9s and 10s on dating apps. You're more likely to find them on Bumble and Hinge than you are on Tinder, right? They do exist, but on dating apps, they're less common than, for example, they would be on Instagram. But I think, in my opinion, unless you have a really good Instagram, a really, really good profile, the best place to meet 9s and 10s is either social circle or cold approach, right? Especially day game. Like, you're walking around during the daytime, you're going to see, at least in a place like Miami, you're going to see a lot of 9s and 10s. A lot of them are not on dating apps. A lot of them have an Instagram that's set to private, right? So the only way you're going to meet her is if either you're in her social circle right, which you're probably not, or if you actually go up and cold approach her. So I think that's why learning cold approach is really, really important, right? It's going to give you an extra skill. And again, I think also social circle is a whole other beast, but essentially, like, if a lot of girls date guys within their social circle, I don't think it matters whether she's hot or average or whatever. So if you make a lot of friends, right, and you're in a lot of social circles and you get invited to a lot of parties, that's also going to give you an edge when it comes to hot girls. All right, hope you guys found this video valuable, and if you hit my YouTube description, you're going to get a free Tinder ebook, which is going to show you how to get good photos that actually gets you matches, including with 9s and 10s if you have a really good profile, how to actually write the kind of bio that makes you stand out, and text games so you can take all those 9s and 10s that you might potentially match with and get them actually out on a date. And best of all, it's free. Link in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.